My name is Shantell Martin, and I'm the host of What's the Point? I'm an artist from Southeast London. I also lived in Japan for a bunch of years. I'm mostly known for my large-scale line drawings, live performances, and talks. This is a conversation series dedicated to exploring why artists create art and the forces that influence us. Every few years, I find myself questioning why I make art and what's the point of it. We just we make it, we share it, and then one day we die and we definitely aren't making things anymore then. It sounds kind of harsh, but it's true. When I'm having one of these existential moments, I like to pick up the phone and ask other artists what they think the point of making art is and why they keep creating and making it. These conversations usually teach me things that help me see my own challenges in a new light. So I want to share them unedited with those who might be asking themselves similar questions. Join me as I sit down with artists and friends to talk about their reasons for doing what they do and why they continue to create. I'd like to introduce you to my guest, Noah Humes, who is a Los Angeles-based multimedia artist who works with materials like wood, clay, wheat paste, paint, and much more. Noah is fantastic at creating portraits that tell real, imagined visual stories. He's collaborated with brands like Vans and worked with what is considered to be the largest murals in the nation for Black Lives Matter movement. Please welcome Noah Humes. Noah, thanks so much for coming in today. And, this is a podcast called What's the Point? And that's abbreviated from What's the Point in Making Art? And as an artist, I'm someone that I often have these existential crises in my life of not knowing why I make art. And so when I find myself in that position, I call friends who are artists and say, hey, why do you do what you're doing?
Right.
And so I thought it'd be really nice to have those conversations with friends to find out who are you and why you make what you're doing.
Yes. Well, what I do is, it kind of goes back to when I was in my formative years, around the time when I was 5, 6 years old. And I found myself within the sketchbook or within in front of a piece of paper or crayons or markers, whatever the material lends itself to be, just kind of creating a realm, a world that is completely imaginative and just immersing myself in that and just having fun and frolicking within the different facets that come within that space. It's also a big proponent of why I'm a huge fan of The Sims. I love to, be a dictator or a commentator on this new world that, you're kind of creating. And my art lends itself within that space. So I'm just able to look at different social events. I do walks, whenever I'm working out, whatever the case may be, it's all intertwined within that creative realm to be able to, comment on how I'm feeling in that time and space. And, it fluctuates, and it's completely, it's easier that way to think of it. And I'm glad that I do think of it like that because, it's a sense of freedom. And, so I create art just to, essentially feel free and to be able to express myself in a way that is personal. And then also I could go in the general sense too, but not a lot of, I would say not a lot of career paths lends itself to that point. Artists were so lucky to be able to think that way, to be able to express ourselves in any way possible and to be appreciated and hated by the masses.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned this concept of time and space. Mm-hmm. So if we're to go back in time and space to your earliest memory of making art or experiencing art, what was that?
That takes me back to my time around, I want to say kindergarten, where I found myself around a lot of crayons, a lot of different pieces of paper, a lot of people questioning what I'm doing. And people, I say, my associates, people also are 5 or 6 years old, whatever the case. But it takes me back to that time where I was being so curious and, being very passionate in that area. and seeing what colors work with one another, what, emotions work with that, how people and figures in the sense, like how does that come all into play. I also was enrolled in the Brentwood School of Art, where I was around like maybe the ages of like, I want to say 5 or 6. And my classmates were like 12, 13 years old. And so, that was a remnant of my teacher from my school at the time was telling my parents, hey, you should really, Noah's finding himself to be fully immersed in that. He's finding a liking to it. So explore it. And we did. And that's when I got enrolled in the school. And so going back, when you say in time, that's where I find myself in that space. And I remember, being scared walking into the classroom, but also being comfortable because this is something that I love to do. And this is something that, feels true to me and dear to me. And it's very, it could be complicated when I overthink it. But it also feels easy and flows like water when I just stick true to what it means to me. And what it means to me is just like, just express whatever you're feeling in that exact moment, or how you felt yesterday, or, so when I think about time, that's what it kind of breaks me down to.
Let's unpack that a little bit. So you were 5 or 6, and then your teacher said that you should go to this school, the Brentwood School.
Yeah, Brentwood School of Art.
When you're 5 or 6, you're in normal school? That's your teacher from a normal school that's saying you should go to this extra elective type of school?
Yes. And she and expressed that to my parents. And then they delved into that. They did their research and they were like, okay, well, let's do it. And in that moment, I'm in my school, like my regular school, Page Private School. And I'm like I guess like the star of the class, quote unquote. And then when you step into that space where there's other people that do exactly what you do and better, there's a sense of kind of like you kind of shell up a little bit. And that, it kind of grew old, and I was able to blossom and like be immersed into, sharing my time and my space with those classmates. But yeah, that definitely was a moment where they, wanted to see what it was about. And then I'm so glad that they took that moment because, again, not a lot of people are lucky enough to have parents or, parental guardians that will take their interest into consideration to then have that flow and seep into whatever it can become.
Yeah. And it's not often that you hear someone that says, I was very comfortable at 5 or 6, and then to walk into a school where there's people twice your age and then still be comfortable. How did that feel when you're walking into this art school where there's kids that are much older than you? And as you said, they perhaps more experienced than you. They've lived twice as long as you, perhaps more talented than you. What was that initial experience like?
And I wish I could remember verbatim, but unfortunately I can't. But I could just honestly say that there definitely was, and I still have that moment to this day where I step into a space that is unfamiliar, not uncomfortable, just a little bit unfamiliar, where I'm trying to like find my way and have my feet set into what the energy is like and what the vibe is like and how it all flow together. I just know myself to be like, all right, well, I know I was kind of a little taken back, but I know it didn't take long to unfold and express myself, and then also have those moments and talks with the other students and kids, and to become friends and just see what they were about as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that I gotta for sure converse with my parents about, because I'm like, yeah, what was it like? I'm like, I'm sure. I wonder if they even knew.
Yeah. For people who are not familiar with your work, how would you describe the work that you're making right now?
A simple commentary on my interests, my conversations, the music that I listen to, the plight of people in today's age right now, not even black, white, whatever the color may be. It's just kind of like a mix and a conundrum of our experience in today's world. And it's very, important that, well, I deem myself to find it to be important to, converse about that and to talk about it and to share my experience and my interpretation that might not be enjoyed or loved by everyone, but just to give people my interpretation of what I feel and what I see and how I kind of decipher certain things that are going on right now. But it kind of transcends from like figurative work to abstraction, found object. Whatever I could truly get my hands on, I'm just a sponge in all of those different areas.
So when I see your work, and I think the most work I've been exposed of yours is the portraiture. It's portraiture of black faces, of black people, Americans. When you're capturing these people or these portraits, are you capturing themselves or kind of more of an internal self of them, if that makes sense?
Yes, no. It's definitely more of an internal self because 98% of what I create, as far as that figurative realm, those people don't exist. And just to go back to my childhood phase, I really found it where I was just kind of creating certain families and cities and just different like neighborhoods and a sense of community that I probably have to dig deep down into. Like, why was I trying to fetch and try to accomplish that so heavily? Like, what was a part of me that was just so deep invested into community? Maybe it's because, I had such a strong community, or maybe I was trying to search of different aspects of what I was missing in that community at, whatever age I was, which was, again, like that 5, 6 years old. But so I just would like to, keep my sense and, my creative space within that, that imaginative space. And of course, I paint people that actually do exist, but these remnants of people that don't, it holds of like, again, the different walks, the different pieces of music that I listen to, the conversations like this one that we're having. And it all like intertwines and like keeps itself within that area that I'm able to like draw from. And then, like down the line, I'll sketch, I'll take notes, I'll listen to different pieces of stuff and poems. And then I'll be able to like draw from that and then create something that I feel, if I enjoy it, then I would like for it to be presented publicly. Yeah.
That's interesting. The majority of people that you're painting don't exist. But do you feel like perhaps on some level that they have existed?
They probably have. And I've never, you kind of tripped me up. I've never even thought of that.
Or they might exist, at some point.
Yeah, like some little doppelganger, like someone like, yo. And I've actually had that moment where I painted something of someone and like, that person was like, yeah, that looks like me. Is that, was that intended to be me? I'm like, no. And, and so to your point, like that probably is a moment, like people are, maybe that's just how that ethos in the other dimension kind of works.
Yeah.
Brentwood
School of Art, very young. You're in school at the same time, going through that school system. What's your evolution or process after that? How do you continue doing art? What was that journey like there?
Well, it was funny because I'm a huge reptile, mammal, water life. Like, so I wanted to be a marine biologist. Wasn't the big person in math, so I kind of was like, oh, that amount of math, just so. Yeah. I kind of, slowly trickled into, and also sports, so playing basketball, football, baseball. Right after, so like elementary school, I didn't really like dive into it, but like let's say like it was more so middle school, and then high school, and then I want to say like high school. To your question, is what took me to that next dimension of like, okay, well, what are we doing? Like, Noah, what do you want to do? And like really being introspective and like thinking about that question. I was like, okay, well, yeah, this is something that I definitely want to do. I want to keep exploring. I want to keep expressing myself, and I want to keep seeing people's different interpretations of what's happening around, not even the world, but just within their world. kind of again back to when I was younger, just like within my world of what I was creating. So it's just this wide variety of different things that, art holds. And I'm like, okay, I want to be immersed in that. And so, yeah, definitely in high school when I went to New Roads School in Santa Monica. And their art program was pretty good. We had life drawing classes, and we had different, alternative art courses like within that realm as well. I mean, we did some, some still life, some courses like that as well. And so it was all preparing me for, where I ended up at Otis. So I'm grateful for that entire experience and that entire history and time. And it was great. A lot of my friends, they weren't as interested, but they were taking those classes with me. So it was a little bit easy and also easy to express myself, because I know I had this safe space with people around me that were, not as interested, but just were very supportive.
Yeah, I think being safe is, in a way gives us that permission to explore and experiment and reinvent ourselves and understand who we are.
Yeah.
I see, you have all these beads on your wrists. Tell me about these.
So this is a direct correlation to my mother, Robbie. And so her jewelry game is quite impeccable. She got me these, actually every piece right now. And so I forget what dealer that she goes to, like, what jeweler. I'll say, yeah, like jeweler that she goes to. But she's, big on it. I mean, some of like I'll just say my entire jewelry and like clothing aesthetic comes and derives from her.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big thing for me as well, because she's so fluid and she's so transparent with who she is, and was definitely like making sure that we understood who we are, and also to search and try to find different moments of what we're interested in to then, correlate itself to also who we are as well. So yeah, she gifted me these, and I just wear them, all the time. I mean, I love the color aspect of them and like the different kind of beads that present itself. And yeah, she's the best. I also find myself still going into her closet or just like kind of picking up different things and
yeah.
Because
I mentioned them, because I can kind of hear them. There's like a sound to them, and also the color palette reminds me of some of your paintings.
Yeah.
So there's something very interesting and connective with the colors and your work in those beads as well.
Oh yes, no, and that's one thing that I did learn at Otis, where it was one of our classes for I think it was our second year, and so I went into the communication arts department with the, focusing on illustration with a fine art background. And one of the classes was, kind of choose or select an art movement that you like, that you think kind of speaks to what you want to do or who you are. And I chose the Harlem Renaissance. And I'm just like, those colors, the saturated colors, the liveliness of it, the celebratory scenes from Archibald Motley, Jacob Lawrence, all the Romare Bearden, all those different artists and what they had to present really struck me and took me aback. And I just kind of adopted that color palette to a degree initially, and then I was able to, again, continue to find myself and adopt my own color palette. But I don't stray away from what initially brought me in, because it was just so vibrant. It was so, capturing, and it just felt so right. And my mother's side and my father's side as well, but the remnants of where they came from, just housed those colors. My dad's side of the family, from the Bahamas, my mom's side, from South Carolina, and then some, then it goes, deep and back. It just felt right. So again, yeah, like you said, the color palette from the beads to the, what I paint, it's just all intertwined.
Yeah. And where are you making art right now?
So right now I am making art out of my place. Unfortunately, I just, my studio space was closed down in November. So, I'm studio hunting, I'm just out there and just trying to search, but making the most of what I got right now. And then my space is right now that I have is great. And it lends itself to the amount of, room that I have and what I'm creating, the body of work that I'm presenting to for the couple of solo shows that I have. So
how do you find a studio out here in LA?
Oh, I mean, I searched for it online. I'm also always driving around because some stuff is not listed online just yet. So you just kind of have that wherewithal to be like, okay, well, let me just drive around and just like see what's up. And so you like have like certain signs or just like whatever, just walking into like a building that might have something and you're just like, yo, can I just just work out of here, like kind of figure out some kind of deal or just anything like that. But yeah, I mean, LA is, it's a hot spot. And so like a lot of folks, a lot of beautiful, incredible artists that are out here. And so, it's always just that moment where you just kind of have to be on top of it if that's what you want.
Yeah. What are you looking for in a studio?
Oh, I'm looking for, my safe space, safe haven, to be able to explore and transcend into, different mediums. And that oasis for me to continue to feel free and comfortable. And then have also, my peers and the people that I love, like yourself, and just like to come in there and just share space and just, hang out, listen to music, eat whatever we're doing. Because food is a big part of our culture too, know. And just to create, converse. And
so do you need, like lights, windows, big doors, a sink, what type of stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, we definitely need that natural lighting. And then, when it comes to like 6, 7 o'clock, I but definitely need those beautiful bright lights from the ceiling to come down and shine in on that, whatever I'm working on and us. I'm gonna need some airflow, like some windows and stuff. So, all the things that kind of fall in line within that for sure.
And within, you've made a lot of work. You've made a lot of painting. You mentioned life drawing kind of back in the day. Mm-hmm. Where is all this work? Where's the work that you've done when you were a kid, when you were a little bit older, when you went to Otis? Does that live with you and your family, or is it kind of out there in the world? Is it in the studio?
That stuff that I did, in high school and also Otis, it's at my mom's. And then following that,
thank you, Mum, for the story.
I know, right? Yeah, like I owe her commission for sure. But so that's at my mom's, and then the other stuff, it's just kind of like flowing. Like, well, after I left Otis in 2017, those are like some commissions, some personal bodies of work that I've been doing. Those are at my place, but all that early stuff, Mom's keeps it, and she wants to make sure that it's preserved and kind of held tight and safely. Although I have stepped aside, and whenever I needed a canvas, this was years ago, but whenever I needed a canvas, I kind of was like, okay. And I took a canvas, painted over them, and she just was like, yo, where is that? And I'm like, I don't know where it is. Yeah. But let alone it's someone else's, it's another piece. So, I mean, I had to do what I had to do.
Yeah. No, I love that concept. I've definitely drawn on a lot of walls that have been temporary, and then those walls get painted over. Mm-hmm. And there's something really nice about the work lives within the layers of the paint. Yeah. And so it doesn't go away. It's always there. And so, whoever or wherever that new painting ends up, it's holding the DNA or the infrastructure of the painting that you created before.
Exactly. It's like, it's a layering process of that. Mm-hmm. And like, to me, that's is a little more valuable. You know what I mean? Like, it's like something that you did in your formative years, you figuring yourself out. And then, I mean, I don't know who if people always, whoever has themselves figured out at whatever age, but let's say you feel more informed than you were when you first created it, and now you just, again, paint it on top of it, and now you're just kind of like, again, adding that layer. It's like seasoning it. You're just kind of like seasoning and prepping it. And again, yeah, to me, that's more, it's beautiful, I love that.
Do you have any routines before you get started, before you start painting or making and creating?
Yeah, I definitely need some source of music. Music is a huge proponent of where I find myself. And it doesn't matter if it's lyrics, if it's just, instrumentation, it doesn't matter what it is, but I just need something. And that, again, that takes me into a space where it's like, I don't see color, but again, it just brings me to an area where I'm like, whoa, like, okay, well, and that kind of dictates what I paint to a degree. I do have my, my schedule planned out, like, okay, this is what I want to paint, this is what I need to do. But I'm not going to lie and say the music doesn't kind of like derail or just, kind of help influence me into a different and more beautiful direction at times, where I'm like, okay, well, you can't ignore that. You can't ignore that initial kind of space that it brings you in, Yeah. Music is everything.
I notice you have headphones in quite a lot when you're walking around and you're out and about in the world.
Yeah.
What are you listening to?
Some neo soul, some alternative rock as well, and then some hip hop and then R&B. More specifically, I guess I'll give you. I mean, I love Miles Davis. I love John Coltrane. I love T.J. Moses, Jill Scott, Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt, Sid, D'Angelo, DiBiase. It's just a plethora of people.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit of every, Nirvana. Like, so it's just all, and and then it just all kind of comes together as this huge, like, kind of conglomerate.
Being an artist, there is a lot of hurdles. There's a lot of struggle. It sounds like you've been supported from quite a young age to be on this path. Mm-hmm. And so with that support from family and friends around you, like, what are the internal or external struggles that you feel like you face as someone that creates and paints and is an artist? And, like, what pushes you and what are you pushing against?
Damn, what I push against is sometimes feeling that I'm not that I'm not good enough, but that I need to constantly be doing more, regardless of whatever, project or something that I've accomplished and I've done, or, what kind of feat that other people be like, oh yeah, great job. I'm like, yeah, well, it's still not good enough. It's still not enough. Didn't reach my full potential. And, I still truly feel that. And the work that I've put out, I like it and love it. But I still feel that there's more to be made. So there's never this sense of, satisfaction. And I think that is good. I don't want to feel comfortable in that sense enough to be like, yeah, well, I'm at the top of the heap and, I'm good. And it's like, no. Keep, truly thinking and being true to myself to know that there's more to be made and that it never stops. And again, yeah, with, like you said, that support system, yeah, they are there to, kind of hold their pom-poms and, and rightfully so, like to, like, support their family or just whatever the case may be. I mean, there are times where, like, I put out stuff and they're just like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
But, whatever they do like, they stay true to themselves and be like, okay, well, I like this. And so I can't impede in that. But deep down in myself, I'm like, yeah, there's always new stuff to be made. And so, yeah, that's that gripe that I'm kind of like dealing with where, yeah, there's things to continue to explore and just like touch on.
What does Noah look like when Noah has reached his full potential?
Like the stuff that I do or the stuff that I've done?
Just in general. So, because you said you have perhaps a fear or a pressure of not reaching your full potential. Mm-hmm. So when you've reached your full potential and you're at the top of that mountain, what does that look like?
So I'm lounging on the beach No, no, it's I think it looks like, truthfully and honestly, looking into music, because that is something that is a huge proponent in my background and my upbringing from my father, and his trajectory, and then also his background in history, and then also my mother's side. I think that looks into that space. So whenever I feel comfortable enough to be like, okay, well, I feel like I've reached it, trust me, I'm still going to be making that art. I'm going to be, and I can't wait to see the art that I'm making when I'm in my 50s and 60s. Hopefully, I make it to that age, but just to see how informed and how seasoned and well put together that it's going to be at, I'm excited for that. But if I could honestly say, looking into music and just, from the piano to like drums and just exploring that realm and sense. And I do that now though. Because I just, again, with music for myself, feels like they go hand in hand and it helps me so much. So I can't stray away from that in the midst of trying to, create work and whatever I'm doing artistically. So I stay in that space. I mean, I'm trying to learn the piano.
Are you taking lessons?
No, I'm just learning on YouTube.
Okay, there you go. The school of YouTube.
Yes, absolutely. And I just, I'm like, where would my life be without YouTube? So YouTube is teaching me right now, but I for sure would be within that musical realm. But also I feel like artists, we're also, we're making music like with what we're doing with our canvas. We have our platform, which is the whatever medium and canvas that we choose, whether it's a wall, whether it's like, wood panel, stretch, whatever it is, found object, we're exploring and just like putting out our words in our conversation, in our interpretation, our opinions on our morals and our ethics in that for the public to, perceive and like to digest. So again, how much they go hand in hand, but in the literal sense, like, yes, I'm not actually playing a sax or anything. I would love to dive into that.
It'd be pretty cool if you could put one of your works in a machine and, the work was almost like a score. It would like spit out a score and then say, this is the music made by this image or this work.
Wow.
That could be quite fun.
That would be dope. We have to look into that.
Probably some future tech stuff.
Yeah, like, wait, I mean, that's crazy. That's so dope. That would be fun. That would be dope. I'm sorry, my language.
Oh, it's all good. We're all adults here,
Yeah.
So is there something secretly that you've always wanted to make or that you want to make that perhaps you haven't really voiced kind of out loud and in public? Aside from music, is there something from your practice that you'd love to make?
Yeah, I want to, like, honestly, glass blowing has been taking me away. Yeah, I went to Venice in 2018, and my dad, we went to this glass blowing spot, and it was just so beautiful. And just seeing the process, and I'm a really big proponent of process. I mean, I don't want to go off the rails, but just shout out to Beyonce and the Renaissance and that documentary. I mean, that was beautiful process. But like, yes, glass blowing, and then also mosaics. I want to get into that.
Yeah, I think those are, crafts that take a long time. There's a lot of material in them. I think mosaics are wonderful. I'd love to do some mosaics as well in the future.
Yeah,
so that's interesting. And glass blowing, we know Chihuly and artists like that, but I haven't really seen any contemporary kind of new perspectives on glass blowing. So that could be really interesting.
There was this Netflix show, I believe it was on Netflix, but they had like this glass blowing like show competition kind of thing. And I guess like when you said, this made me think when you said contemporary, I'm like, I guess like they were in that contemporary sense and they were flowing. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff that they were putting out, like the art, like whenever I see something that is just like, how did you do that? Or how could you, like what? It kind of, that's where I get that, inner child, like wonder and love and appreciation. I mean, of course, I appreciate it in my years now, but just I can't ignore that initial kind of like 7-year-old Noah, like that 6-year-old, like, yo, what? And just like that sense of inquiry, like, how did you do it? What did you do? That whole process.
Yeah, the curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. You touched on your dad doing music. What was his role or kind of background in music?
My dad has been, he grew up in the church, and he was, playing the piano and, singing when, in his formative years and his single digits to the teens. And then he got his big break, I want to say, when he was 25. And he wrote a song for Whitney Houston. And then he started writing songs for Ray Charles. And a beautiful story that my parents have is that he did some music and work with this lady named Mickey Howard, a beautiful, great singer. I call her, Auntie Mickey. And so he wrote a song for her called Come Share My Love. And then my mom loved that song. They didn't know each other, but my mom loved that song. I want to say it was that song, again, if it was another song, I'm sorry, Dad, I'm sorry, Mom. But I want to say, if I'm right, it was that song, in that she had it, kind of playing on her recorder, like for her voicemail. And so, then they met, they hung out, then he called her, and then she was like, he, went to voicemail, and he was like, oh, by the way, I wrote that song that's playing on your voicemail. And so then, the rest is history. And then comes
Wow.
marriage and my sister, and then, and then like myself. And so it was, so my dad's musical background is, stems from, back in the day, 60s, 70s, this all the way up until now. And he's still writing music, he still feels that love and that curiosity of like, what can I do? How can I write this melody? How can this bridge work? And he's just constantly just working and keeping at it. And I love that. And then his mother was in a band with John Coltrane back in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So I believe she was singing, and then, John was doing his thing. So yeah, it's, it's that historical context of our family where I'm like, okay, yeah, well, music, I can't ignore that. And I'm like, I love it.
Did your sister go into music or the arts?
Yeah, so my sister is actually, I would say both, honestly, because she does crocheting, and it's called Summer's Crochets. And so she does her thing. I don't know how long it takes her, but, it's to me like, an art piece where I'm like, this stands alone on its own. And it's so beautiful that people are able to wear it. And she sells her stuff as well. And then she also does music. So she writes. And so again, like that trickle down effect into what my father brought to us. Like, I'm just so grateful for it. And I know, she is as well. But, it's just a form of expression. It's a form of freedom and again, like not a lot of different spaces within like the workspace allow for that, for you to just like talk so personally or so generally on what is going on around in your life.
Have you ever collaborated with your sister?
No, I haven't. I have not. I need to explore that.
That could be fun, even, musically, or with your mixed media and crochet. That could be really interesting.
Right. Yeah. No, we've talked about it, and, definitely need to touch on that more because there's something there.
Yeah. And I've actually noticed, just going back to your painting, that you sign it NH with your initials. Mm-hmm. Is that an evolution of you trying out different things, or is that something you've done from the beginning?
I don't like it, honestly. I don't want to, it's not that I think that it takes away, but I'm just kind of like, sometimes, the family is like, yeah, make sure you sign it. That way no one can take it. I'm like, listen, if somebody wants to take it, they're going to find a way. That is an evolution, because I used to just do an initial kind of like signature, which was horrible. And I just was like, okay, how can I, quote unquote, like just brand this, whatever. But I do want to live in that area where it's just kind of like, all right, well, I don't want to sign. I don't want to really sign it. I mean, I don't have an issue with it, but sometimes I do feel like it takes away from the piece itself just a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Like, how do you exist in that?
I think it's very Western. It's this sense of ownership and property. And I think there's definitely many cultures out there in the world who don't have a precedent of like signing the work, because kind of art is more for the community and for the wider audience. But I do think it is this ingrained Western mentality that we have of claiming things and having that ownership. For
Right.
myself, you know, sometimes I sign my work, sometimes I don't. Sometimes my signature is hidden within the work. My first many years, my signature just looked like grass. It was kind of like hidden.
Oh, okay.
But then I started to use thicker and thicker pens, and so it was harder to hide it. But yeah, I do also think about that. But sometimes if someone's, you know, is interested in one of my pieces, they say, oh, it's not signed. And I say, well, the drawing itself is a signature.
Oh,
You know, the whole
wow.
work within itself is a signature. So I don't need to write my name. I've already written my name within the work and the lines that exist.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I love that. And if you don't mind, I'm going to adopt that.
Yeah,
like,
no,
that is
totally.
beautiful, because I truly feel that as well. And like, yeah, like you said, a sense of ownership and that this is mine and you can't, you know, whatever. But it's like, yeah, it is for the community. It's for everyone. Of course, you know, it gets to a point where it's like people are trying to profit off of it. It's like, okay, hold up. But just like in the general, like loving and like, you know, sense of the community, it's just like it's for everyone, you know.
And I think that's a whole other conversation. You know, the commerce of art. You know, we do live in the West where, you know, everything in a way is commerce, and you know, we have this kind of juxtaposition of thinking art is for all, but at the same time there's an art market and there's art commerce and it's retail and there's a price to it, and you know, this
Right.
whole other infrastructure.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's so interesting because I don't know, you know, I'm just still getting my feet into it, you know. I mean, I've just been removed from, you know, school. It's been like coming up on like 5 years, 6 years now, so I'm still, you know, I'm still learning, you know, like that space, and like when it comes to the gallery realm, commercially, all that, and just like profit, and just trying to figure out like what people's, you know, never know, you know, the true incentives, or just like what they like, their true intentions and stuff. So I'm just like grateful to just be a part of it and just like find out and explore and like learn through trial and error. It's not going to be the biggest thing, you know. People are going to hate it, and then people are going to like it, and it's cool, and then people are going to love it. So I need to like, I am in that space now where, again, now I'm creating the work for it, but where I'm like past that point of just like, it's, you know, quote unquote perfect. It's not going to be. So yeah, I'm just creating the work, and so now I'm just ready to just like show. Yeah, but it's not to say that I wasn't like ready then. I just was trying to make sure that things were all aligned, you know, like well for what I want to put out.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, I think sometimes when we wait to things to be perfect, we do ourselves a disjustice because we don't give ourselves those opportunities in between.
Exactly.
Because, you know, we get to one place because we got somewhere else. So it's a constant evolution of doing to get somewhere else. And if we're kind of trying to get to a destination without going between all those steps, you know, all those steps and increments to get there initially,
Right.
then we cut out perhaps so much growth and understanding. And I'm a strong believer in sharing all of that, kind of the steps in between, you know. Lots of artists work very differently, but that's kind of my belief there.
Right. Again, you know, just the learning curve. It's, you know, something that I'm grateful to just be a part of,
Yeah.
you know, and just, again, and even like, I'm just sitting back, you know, like listening to you talk as well. And I'm just learning to what, you know, what you're saying is just, it's great.
Ultimately, if you were to ask yourself, you know, what's the point in the work that you make, in the time that you spend making it? What's the point in making art for you, Noah?
I guess what I would say the point is to see and visualize my interpretation of what's going on, to see my commentary, to see my thoughts, to see where my head was at, because my head might, you know, be different in, you know, 2 months from when I put it out. But that's the whole point, in catching that in its moment, and seeing someone's commentary, you know, and seeing their thoughts in it. And so I really enjoy that, and I like to look at it on that kind of level of whenever I'm viewing art. It's like, okay, well that was what they were thinking in that time, and it's probably something they still think of and think of it in that way. And their style of execution, to the process of it, to, the research aspect, to like the explanation that they might have on the side of it, which I like to look at afterwards. I like to look at it after I've already viewed the art, to then, like, I don't want it to influence what I'm already, what I'm looking at. But yeah, the point in which I make stuff and is to just like kind of get my voice, my visual vernacular of what I'm talking about. How I see color, how I see people, how I see different things that flow around me, how I, go on walks and stuff like that, because all those things are just remnants of what comes out of my work.
Yeah.
Different pieces of music, and so thinking of it on that kind of like abstract level, I want to say. Yeah.
And I asked you to bring in an object today, and I see a couple of things on the desk here.
Yes.
Can you tell us what these are?
Yeah, so this is actually a pot that I made for my mom for Mother's Day, and I kind of created it in, like the same kind of color palette of what we spoke about earlier within the Harlem Renaissance, what I do, and then also like the colors of my beads, like some kind of some high red, some high yellows and reds and oranges, some deep ultramarine blue, some lilac.
And so did you actually spin this pot?
No, I did not. But I do, and I should have done that as well, but I do pottery. And that's going to be another, piece of the shows that I'm going to be working on. I'm going to add that kind of a 3D aspect in there. But so this was just, one of the, and I added in some greenery right there on them.
Yeah. Some
kind of like banana tree leaves and stuff like that. But yeah, this was a fun thing to work on. And this was like a previous succulent. So, when you mentioned bring something old and new, so it's kind of like newish, but also like this, the succulents have kind of like died out. So it's like a remnants of the old. And so like the fact that the art stays, but the liveliness of the succulents, it ultimately like has to go somewhere. It's still here, but we're not looking at, we're just looking at kind of like soil and things like that. So the art will always and constantly outlive us, but we still are within the art.
And it's interesting, the outside of this bowl or, pot is very bright and vibrant and colourful. And as you said, the soil inside and it looks like, the plant that's kind of dried up.
Yes.
In a way that could be a little bit of a metaphor, is like, we can be shiny and new on the outside, but if you really don't care and nurture what's inside, like that can really just start to disintegrate and go away.
Exactly. Yes. And so that's, again, one of the reasons why I brought it, because, it was, once a beautiful succulent, moment. And then, it kind of like shriveled up and just kind of like, ultimately like died out. But I'm not going to even say unfortunately, because that's something that we all do and we have to celebrate it. Like it is what it is. And it is a part of the process of what we're all experiencing. And so I love it. I think it's beautiful in the sense of just the soil in itself, even just touching it. I'm like, I love that aspect of it. And I think it's great. Yeah. And
I love the heart kind of flag or picket in the middle there.
Thank you. Yeah. Then I had like little, again, and then I put that in like that. So I kind of like threw it down in the soil, and then on each side, Happy Mother's Day, and then also on the back is a heart. But yeah, no, so I definitely, wanted to bring that in and just to like kind of provide that synopsis that, like you said, like on the outside, we might be showing something, or just like again, and then another thing, the art outlives us and then we all kind of go somewhere, but also we might feel like a little bit shunned and like not as lively in the inside.
Yeah.
So I think it's, it's very telling.
And sure. What's this here?
And so this is one of my mom's little caricatures. And so one of her like little moments where she houses in the kitchen. And, obviously he's a chef, but like that throwback to those times in the early, like, 1900s, late 1800s of the, black figure with the red lips, and also, you know, he's a chef, but also how significant food is, and how it has been significant within our process in America as, you know, people of African descent, and how we had to turn food and leftovers into food, you know, just whatever that process was. And it was something that I was big on, and just, you know, growing up and seeing it just like on top of our stove, him just kind of like seated there, kind of was a glimmer of hope, and to like not know, you know, just to be proud of, you know, like obviously the color of the skin, and we all know the trope with that, and just how to not be, you know, proud if you look like that. But he just has this beautiful smile on his face, and I just, you know, it always took me back. And I actually painted it in one of the pieces that I did of my mom for her 60th birthday. And yeah, he's in there.
And he's a familiar friend, old friend.
I mean, you know, so definitely familiar. And so I love him, you know, and I'm not huge in the kitchen. You know, I still need to learn some things. I'm a big, you know, grill person. You know, I like to like throw some stuff on the grill. But, you know, just seeing that with this hat on, I'm just kind of like, it's just, I don't know, it's just warm and welcoming to me.
Yeah.
And so, and obviously that is something that is old, I would say, obviously, you know, like when I just would always envision and seeing him as a child, you know, just as I'm eating like oatmeal or anything, you know, just like looking up at him, and he just has that same face. Like, I love it, you know.
Well, thank you, Noah. It's been very fast this last hour.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming today. It's been nice learning more about your work. I feel like I have still so many more questions to ask.
Oh, and we have to do this again. And my ocean of gratitude just extends so far deep into you providing this space, this conversation, your time. Thank you, Shantell, so much for this. That's been great. I love you, and it's been amazing.
Cool, I love you too. Thank you, Noah.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of What's the Point? Recorded at Spotify Studios in Los Angeles. Check out our website made by Eat.studio. Grant Alexander Peters does our theme music, engineering, and editing. Research and pre-show preparation are done by Vern Molidor and Joyce Adams-So from the Shantell Martin studio team. If you like this episode, please consider subscribing to the podcast and leaving a nice 5-star review. Don't forget to check out the show description for more information on today's guest. And you can follow myself and the podcast on Instagram at Shantell_Martin. What's the point? I should be me. I ought to walk more. I must sing more. I must swing more. I should eat less. I should be more.
I should be more.
I should see more. See more opportunities. See more of the sea. See more of the things that I could be. I should think more positively.
Think more positively.
I should walk more positively. I should talk more to strangers. I should eat better. I ought to walk more. I ought to run more. I ought to read more. I ought to be more. It's my right to see more. As I see and I swing and I be and I run and I talk and I surf, I know that life has more to offer than what is in front of us. I know that life has more to offer than the TV takes from us. I know life has more to offer than junk food brings to us. I know that we have more to offer than we give to us. I know that we should be more. I know that we ought to walk more. I must sing more. I must swing more. I I must enjoy the trees and the breeze and the bees and the sea more. I should go on vacation more. I should enjoy the plants more. I should smell the flowers more. I should walk and feel the breeze more. I should just feel the sun on my face some more. I should live some more. Stuck, 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 mud, 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 time. Walking through the jungle of my mind. In this time I get stuck, 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 stuck. Pover, 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 pover. What's the word? It's poverty. Stuck, 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 stuck. Drink more tea. Stuck, 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 stuck in the mud. Stuck, 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 ducking from me. Stuck, 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 stuck. I'm sipping my tea. Stuck, 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 stuck. I'm going to see the sea. I'm on the boat in the sea. I'm feeling the breeze. I'm understanding it's me that can be better with the breeze on your knees, on your knees, on your knees, on your knees of this space, in this place, on the time, in the room, on the boat. As you see, as you flee, as you floor, as you float, as you see, as you wonder, as you explore. Thinking about the sea, thinking about the breeze, understanding time, understanding place. This is my place, that is your place. Don't get out of place, don't be out of place, don't see out of place, don't look out of place, don't be out of place. Stay in your place, stay in your mind, stay in this time, stay in your room, stay when you're you, stay in the who, state in the 9, state in the 10, state in the 2, blowing, 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 blow through all of it, knowing all of it, seeing all of it. You can be all of it. You are all of it. Time I get stuck, 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 stuck. Standing something new in this space as I read you, as I see and I flow and I see and I flow and I see and I read and I flee and I know and I flee and I know and I fight and I know and I be and I know and I stand and I know and I grow and I know and I be and I know and I see and I know and I run and I know. I know this.
I know this.